we interrupt this program for breaking news from KIRO 7 Eyewitness News.
And hello, I'm Michelle Millman in the KIRO 7 studios. We interrupt your normal programming here for this breaking news on the Aurora Bridge. You're looking at a live picture from the Seattle Department of Transportation camera, where just a short time ago we received this video in, and there is a collision between a Ride the Ducks tour boat and some sort of bus there that you see right here live with me for the very first time. We're getting eyes on this. The side of that bus just crashed in there. This is the Aurora Bridge. It was about 11:13 when we got a phone call into the newsroom from our very own Natasha Chen, who was behind this crash on the Aurora Bridge southbound. I am joined right now on the set with our Jeff Du Bois, who just came in to join me here from the newsroom. And Jeff, we're being told that our Natasha Chen, who was right behind this, joins us on the phone. Natasha, amazing images from Chopper 7 here from this incident. What else can you tell us from the ground?
Hi, Michelle. Well, I was driving not too far behind them, and I saw a cloud of smoke and debris when the collision actually happened. I wasn't sure what was going on, so I pulled over and kind of walked up closer, and that's when I saw just how bad it was. I'm talking to a group of North Seattle Community College students who say they were the ones on these two tour buses. One of the tour buses was the one collided with the duck tour. The other tour bus is okay.
And I understand KIRO 7's Allison Grandy is now live on the scene. Allison, what can you tell us from there?
This is just devastating. It's actually one of the worst scenes I've ever seen, and we're so close right here as they really work to try to save as many people out of this bus as they can. What it looks like, we're not sure exactly how it happened, but you can see the side of that charter bus has been ripped apart as they tried to get in and get the passengers out of that bus. Right now, there are firefighters on the front of that Ride the Duck vehicle working to get folks who are injured off of the duck vehicle. The rest of the folks have been walked out. We just saw ambulance after ambulance coming here. They've been loading up one patient after another, getting them to Harborview. It's just controlled chaos here.
No, a West Seattle man who says he passed the duck boat 1 second before the crash says there seemed to be something mechanically wrong with it.
KIRO 7's Joanna Spall talked to him, and Joanna, he says that he saw the front driver's side wheel of the duck boat turned almost at a 45-degree angle.
He did, Steve. Kyle Bolton says he moved into the left lane to pass the duck boat, and it was impossible not to notice there was something seriously wrong with that wheel. He says less than a second later, he witnessed the violent crash in his rearview mirror.
I probably wasn't more than a car length, maybe a car length and a half away. It happened almost instantly, almost the second I passed it.
While Kyle Bolton says he's still trying to wrap his head around what happened in his rearview mirror.
And when it hit the passenger bus, I guess it was a tour bus, some people fell out.
He says he has little doubt about how it happened.
I happened to just look to the right, and I saw its left front tire was like that, almost a 45-degree angle. And quickly, I was just thinking that's strange. That looks weird.
You can see it loose on the pavement in the video we shot from Chopper 7. Kyle says he knew something was wrong with it the moment he passed the duck boat, which he says was taking up the entire right-hand lane as well as a portion of the middle lane.
I'm sure he thought he was as far over as he could get, because I've passed those buses several times on Aurora, and they have to take up that much space.
That's what we found out when we shot this video on the Aurora Bridge weeks ago while putting together a story about traffic on the bridge. But Kyle is fairly convinced what he witnessed from just feet away proves the cause of the crash was mechanical.
I guess I felt compelled to say something like, maybe these vehicles aren't very safe. Maybe we should update them.
Kyle says he called 911 to report the crash immediately and then called again later to report what he saw before that crash. He says he was told his information is on file and investigators will get in touch with him if necessary. Live in the newsroom, Joanna Small, KIRO 7 News.
Virtually every emergency room in Seattle was accepting patients from this crash. 44 patients were rushed to Harborview's Level 1 trauma unit, Swedish Ballard, Swedish Cherry Hill, Swedish First Hill, Northwest Hospital, and Group Health as well.
Now, KIRO 7's Natasha Chen is live at Harborview Medical Center. That is a first-rate trauma center for our region. What is going on there, Natasha?
Less than an hour ago, Harborview updated us that they have 17 patients from this accident. They said that most of the injuries are to the face and head. The patients range in age from 17 years old to 61 years old. Now, I was actually driving a few cars behind the duck tour and the tour bus when they collided, and I was able to speak to some of the people on the bridge who were not seriously hurt. These Chinese international students who attend North Seattle College told me they were on a city tour.
Broken seats, broken to my face.
All of a sudden, a huge bump sent everything flying. This student who spoke to me in Mandarin had some scrapes on her arm. She said suddenly everything fell this way and I was sitting on the floor and a lot of glass was in my eyes. They knew at least one of their classmates was in very bad shape, perhaps even dead. With that trauma on their minds, 25 of them walked to Woodland Park Zoo. Zoo staff trained in emergency response made sure they were all okay.
Our hearts go out to North Seattle College. It's a very hard day.
One of the students who made it to Woodland Park Zoo told me she felt very lucky not to have been more hurt. Of course, there are so many in local hospitals right now, and we'll continue to track how they're doing. Live in Seattle, Natasha Chen, KIRO 7 News.
At the north end of the bridge, and Amy, is this causing big problems out there from where you are?
You know, Monique, this is one of the busiest routes into and out of downtown Seattle. Take a look behind me. You can see that there are tow trucks lined up, ready to come on the Aurora Bridge to help clear the scene. But at this point, they're not being allowed on the bridge, and neither is anybody else. We've got the Seattle Police Department here making sure that not only no cars or trucks go on the bridge, but also no pedestrian traffic. The sidewalks are also closed. You can see the duck and the bus and the vehicles involved are still down at the southern end of the bridge because this investigation is ongoing.
I'm literally walking away, and I'm really fortunate.
Mark Gordon of Seattle had to walk off the Aurora Bridge because his pickup was one of the vehicles involved in the multi-vehicle crash. He told KIRO 7 that when the duck crossed the center lines, he swerved to avoid a head-on collision with it and crashed head-on with another vehicle.
It was just terrible. There were so many people in so much pain. I could tell what was going on. I just couldn't wrap my mind around it.
With the exception of ambulances, fire trucks, and the bus that took victims from the scene, the Aurora Bridge has been closed to all traffic ever since the accident, while investigators try to determine exactly what happened and whether the much-traveled span into downtown Seattle is safe.
Once the scene is cleared by police, then SCOT will come in, make sure that there's no damage to any of the guardrails on the bridge, and clean up any spilled fuel, and then reopen it to traffic.
While all 6 lanes of this bridge are closed, the nearby Fremont and Ballard bridges will not open for boat traffic in order to help ease the evening commute. Today, Seattle Mayor Ed Murray warned of significant traffic problems throughout the city for as long as it takes to clear this scene.
It will stay closed for the rest of the day and potentially throughout the evening.
Now you're looking again at a live image of this scene. The vehicles involved are still there. Now, the Aurora Bridge is one of the busiest routes for Metro bus traffic. So there are a lot of people whose routes are having to be diverted to someplace else. We put all that information for how you can find your bus and where it will be and which way it will go, all on our website at KIROTV.com. For now, reporting live from the north side of the bridge, Amy Clancy, KIRO 7 News.
The president of Seattle Ride the Duck says he's just as anxious as everyone else to find out what caused the crash. Brian Tracy told us he is deeply concerned about what happened, and his staff trains for safety very frequently.
KIRO 7's Gary Horker is live now where those ducks usually launch. Pretty quiet there right now, Gary.
Very strange, very quiet indeed. You know, usually this pavilion at Ride the Ducks is crowded with a lot of tourists waiting to get on a long line of ducks, but we're told their operations are shut down until further notice. Ride the Ducks president Brian Tracy talked to KIRO 7 after the crash. He says his driver, who was hurt in the collision, is being treated now. He has not talked about how the crash happened just yet. Tracy says the drivers are, quote, trained, and retrained for any kind of emergency. They have commercial driver's permits, and he says his duck vehicles are inspected thoroughly to go far beyond any government safety standards. Here's what he had to tell us today when we asked him about possible causes of the crash.
It's absolutely devastating, and it's devastating because of the people that were injured, and from what I understand, we've also had some fatalities. I'm not sure of the numbers yet, but it's just devastating. And, you know, you're you just feel like you've been punched in the stomach.
Brian Tracy with Ride the Ducks did say his captains are all trained to slow down and put on their emergency flashers because the lanes on that bridge are so narrow. And having ridden the Ducks several times, I could tell you they do slow down on that bridge even when there's no traffic in front of or behind them. And since we are hearing from people who say that they saw something happen to one of the Ducks' wheels, it is worth noting that every year, every single duck gets taken apart, stripped down, and reassembled to make sure all of those parts are safe. So as the NTSB continues their investigation, the DOT, the police department will stay on top of it and keep you posted. Live outside Ducks headquarters in Seattle tonight, I'm Gary Horker, KIRO 7 News.
And this type of duck company is not just here in the U.S. They can be found all over the world.
They can. So what is the accident history of these vehicles? Our Jesse Jones is here now with why it's a good time now to check a company's history before putting your family on one of those vehicles.
Stephen, Monique, that particular vehicle is registered by the Coast Guard as Duck 6, and it passed its latest inspection in March. But according to the Washington Utilities and Transportation Commission, the entire duck fleet has not been inspected in 3 years. The owner has said the ducks have been recently inspected and passed. But after this tragedy, the question is, are ducks safe? There have been issues with ducks for years, with the incidents happening worldwide. In London, a duck bursts into flames. 28 passengers dive into the River Thames. No passengers were seriously hurt. Later, another duck has issues in Liverpool.
The commonality between the majority of these accidents with these duck boats have been mechanical failure.
In 2010, a stalled engine left a duck boat stranded in the Delaware River, only to have a 250-foot boat slam into the duck, dumping 3 dozen into the water. 2 were killed.
The boat was tossing, and it just basically, instead of jumping out, the boat just kind of rolled over, and we kind of tumbled out.
Then in Arkansas in 1999, 13 people drowned in the sinking of the Miss Majestic. Experts say, check the history of a company before buying a ticket.
I think it's important before you make a decision on which tour operator to use, as far as these duck boats are concerned, is to do some research.
The Washington Utilities and Transportation Commission will inspect the entire duck fleet straight away. The inspection will include driver qualifications, employee drug and alcohol testing, and vehicle maintenance records. They're going to be on it right away. But, from everything that I've seen so far, they have been safe up until this point. It's just something tragic has happened today.
Right. All right, Jesse.
Something very tragic.
12 hours after tragedy.
Our hearts go out to the victims.
4 out of 50 patients are dead. 3 are fighting to stay alive. But Seattle, you stepped up big time. Lines out the door to give blood.
Whatever we could do to help.
Tonight, the bridge is still closed. The feds are on their way. And we're asking if all this could have been prevented by a feature on the bridge itself.
And we've got team coverage and begin with KIRO 7's Gary Horker, who just talked with one crash survivor as he was released from the hospital. Gary, this man was hurt, and still he worked to save other people.
That's right, and he's one example of so many injured people that took immediate action, Monique, and helped to try and save other people's lives. Tonight, they're in Virginia Mason Medical Center, but they're visiting our city for the first time from Orlando, Florida, and they never dreamed their lives would change so dramatically in just a matter of seconds.
I've never seen carnage like that before.
Tim Gessner and his wife believe the only reason they survived this incredible crash is because they were sitting in the back seat of the duck boat. Tim says 1 second after he stood up to snap this photo of the view off the bridge, the duck swung out of control.
Just as I was doing that, I felt the back of the vehicle start to fishtail. And as I turned my head, I heard the driver say, "Oh no."
Tim says first they rammed into a pickup and an SUV, then the boat ripped right through the side of the oncoming tour bus. Tim says he flew through the air and he hit a support beam and a railing.
I guess it's like what you see in the movies. It's just my life went into slow motion.
The woman seated in front of Tim was thrown out of the duck and she landed onto the bridge deck. He took a life jacket and he supported her bleeding head, and then he raced in to help others.
There were quite a few people who were ejected, and that's what I started to do, going around trying to help help those people. And then people, that got stopped in the accidents, all of a sudden, like every good Samaritans do, people started coming to help.
But Tim says within minutes, dozens of firefighters and paramedics swarmed in, and in the chaos, he says they were incredibly organized while they scrambled to save lives and treat dozens of frightened, hurting people.
I want everybody in this city to know that. From a guy from Orlando who's here on his first vacation to take a duck boat tour, you guys were incredible. Thank you.
Tip went on to tell me something sobering. He said that he believes those ducks are so heavy, if they hadn't collided with so many oncoming vehicles, he believes they would have crashed right off the edge of that bridge down into the water below. He also wants to credit the boat's captain. He says the driver went right into action and gave first aid to those who were worst injured. We're live outside Virginia Mason in Seattle tonight. I'm Gary Horker, KIRO 7 News.
Boy, it's hard to believe that it could have been worse, but it could have. Now, the wrecks were loaded up on tow trucks just moments ago. They were removed from the bridge.
Here you see the pictures on those trailers. KIRO 7's Allison Grandy was the first reporter on the scene this morning, some 12 hours ago, breaking details all day long. Allison is still there, and this investigation is really just beginning.
It is, Steve. Those vehicles left here just in the last 3 minutes or so, headed to a warehouse so federal investigators can take a look. But I can tell you the Aurora Bridge is still closed, and there's no sign it's going to open anytime soon, because before it can open, investigators and inspectors have to get a good look at it to make sure it isn't damaged and that it's safe to open. Tow trucks worked to remove the wrecked charter bus and mangled metal duck off the Aurora Bridge. The investigation will be picked up by the feds, who will examine the wreckage in a secure warehouse.
It all happened so fast.
Chopper 7 was over the collision on the Aurora Bridge as rescuers crawled through the damaged vehicles searching for survivors. 4 passengers were killed, more than 50 more injured. First responders put the most critical patients on this red tarp.
People were thrown from the duck bus. There were some other people bloodied, unconscious from the other tour bus.
Lance Jacobson was driving right behind the duck vehicle.
He just started kind of wandering into the middle lane, so I stayed back a little bit.
Jacobson says the duck moved to the right and hit the barrier.
He overcorrected and went just across all these 3 lanes in the bus.
I was in a tan SUV, and the duck bus came across my lane and hit the other bus.
He collided head-on with a Ram truck. Caught in the crash, he's convinced the duck had a mechanical problem.
I think their front left tire may have locked up. Something. I saw like a red liquid that was spewed across my lane, and it appeared to be coming from that tire.
Investigators focused on that tire as they measured and took photographs.
Shocked and grateful that I came out unscathed.
A team of NTSB investigators will fly out of Washington, D.C. in the morning. They will meet with Seattle police accident investigators to figure out what they learned so far here on the Aurora Bridge. This bridge needs to be inspected before it can reopen. Live in Seattle, Allison Grandy, KIRO 7 News.
Our Natasha Chen was driving across the bridge before her shift today. When she witnessed the crash, she then pulled out her phone and started interviewing victims.
Broken seats, broken to my face.
Your face bumped into the glass?
Yes.
And now she continues on this evening live from Harborview Medical Center, where more than a dozen patients are still being treated tonight. Natasha.
Some of these people here may be the ones that I saw on the ground there. I had seen this huge plume of debris and glass in the air, and so I pulled over. I saw other people had already called 911 and were helping. And so when students started coming out of the tour bus, I asked if they were okay, and even though they had some scrapes, they were willing to tell me what happened. Moments before this crash, students had just been taking photos from their tour bus. Within seconds, they were climbing out the window on the right and dusting off debris and glass.
I'm really lucky.
Many of them said they're international students just about to start their freshman year at North Seattle College. She told me, suddenly everything fell this way and I was sitting on the floor and a lot of glass was in my eyes. We saw the same students again after they were checked out and taken back to campus. They continued to tell us what happened.
Just heard the sound and suddenly the seat fell on my face.
Others weren't so lucky. Friends came to see injured students at Harborview Medical Center, concerned that these victims' parents are worrying frantically in another country.
I was really happy to see that she was conscious, asking me how I was.
She got to see Mazda Mairagita, a 17-year-old student from Indonesia. She said luckily Mazda was sitting near the front of the bus, not the left side middle, which was almost entirely taken out by the duck's impact.
Where the duck hit, it was more towards the middle of the bus, so more of like a T-bone kind of thing. And so the front didn't have that much of an impact.
Friends told us the students were just getting to know the city they'd recently moved to.
They were all having fun, and then the accident just happened, and yeah, we are all shocked.
15 patients are here at Harborview tonight. The North Seattle College president told me there were 45 students and staff on the tour bus. I was driving behind a second tour bus that was equally full, but not involved in the accident. Live in Seattle, Natasha Chen, KIRO 7 News.
Now, right after the wreck, Seattle, he really stepped up. Blood banks sounded the alarm about a need for blood. We spread the word, and it was shared 3,000 times on Facebook. Lines were out the door at blood banks with people wanting to help. KIRO 7's Joanna Small is live right now outside a donation center in North Seattle. Joanna, so many people showed up, some actually got turned away.
Yeah, you know, this was really unbelievable, and that's coming from Bloodworks Northwest, the people who actually do this for a living. They had so many lines that were out the doors of their dozen centers around the Seattle area, and those doors closed at 8 o'clock, so not everybody who wanted to get in could do it today.
It seems like the right thing to do. I can do it.
This is a way for me to do something in my small way.
Over and over again.
Oh, I just felt like it was the right thing to do.
I really felt compelled to do something.
We heard the same sentiment.
This was one thing we could do to really help people.
New donors joined regular donors.
It's a lot more people than what I normally see when I come in here.
In droves. So many, some were turned away. But the president and CEO of Bloodworks Northwest certainly hopes they'll be back.
It will undoubtedly take several days to weeks, as these patients probably will be undergoing multiple surgeries and their recuperation will take a long time.
It will take a week to replenish the supply to normal after the amount of blood given to crash victims today. They need type O, especially O negative. That's even with the overwhelming response to Bloodworks' call to donate.
I'm sure that we today probably collected at least double what we would normally collect.
So the centers hope tomorrow and in the days to come, people will remember this feeling.
This is at least I can do. Like, yeah, this is like my maybe 1% contribution.
All of the blood collected at Bloodworks Northwest centers stays local to help people right here in the Puget Sound area. The blood you donate today or in the future goes to patients at 90 different area hospitals. Live in North Seattle, Joanna Small, KIRO 7 News.
Well, we worked up an animation of how this crash may have happened. Eyewitnesses told us the duck boat veered into the center lane a little bit, then right, overcorrected, and then flew all the way across and hit the side of the bus. A lot of people have been asking, why isn't there a median to prevent something like that? Well, we sent KIRO 7's Graham Johnson to find out. Graham?
And Steve, tonight we asked Seattle's transportation director that question after this crash on a notoriously narrow bridge. Tonight, as crews cleaned up the crash on the Aurora Bridge, we asked Seattle's transportation director about those notoriously narrow lanes. Is it time to reduce the number of lanes and build a barrier between north and southbound traffic?
We want to understand what happened with the investigation, but that's definitely something that we're going to take a good hard look at in the coming days and weeks.
The Aurora Bridge was built in 1931 and is classified as functionally obsolete. In 2012, we were given dimensions for its 6 lanes. It's the same both directions. The outside lanes are the widest at 10 feet and the middle lanes the narrowest at 9 feet. The 2 inside lanes are 9.5 feet wide. Current federal standards call for 11 to 12-foot lanes on arterials. The narrow lanes are a challenge for Ride the Ducks drivers. Video taken this summer shows an amphibious vehicle taking up more than 1 lane.
The duck boats are large, the buses are large, there's other traffic. I mean, again, that's, I think, an issue that we'll look at going forward, no question.
Ride the Ducks president Brian Tracy said this about protocol for crossing the bridge.
Normally when we go over the Aurora Bridge, we put the flashes on and slow down, so we don't know what happened.
The city manages traffic on the bridge, but the state owns the structure, and the state is spending about $23 million over the next 2 years to paint the bridge in an effort to preserve it. Live in Seattle, Graham Johnson, KIRO 7 News.
Now, the duck boat involved here is called Duck 6 because it's amphibious. Its drivers have to get a Coast Guard captain's license as well as a commercial driver's license. The boat itself was inspected by the Coast Guard just in March, and it passed. We have learned the Utilities and Transportation Commission was going to do another inspection in October. Now that is scheduled for Monday. There are no labor and industry violations on file. After the crash, tours were immediately and voluntarily shut down around the city. It's not clear if they'll be back out tomorrow.
Inspections at the bridge could easily keep it closed for the morning commute. KIRO 7's Alexis Smith breaks down the expected backup and how you can get around Aurora.
So we still have that investigation underway on the Aurora Bridge. We are not exactly sure when we're going to have these lanes back open, hopefully by the morning commute tomorrow. Northbound lanes currently cut off at the south end of the Battery Street Tunnel, so you're forced to exit at Western, not going to have access all the way up to the Aurora Bridge. If you're coming southbound, access cut off at 46th in Fremont. Once you get south of the bridge, then it opens back up. Of course, everything all around the Aurora Bridge was congested all afternoon and evening, and we expect the exact same thing tomorrow, any of those north-south routes. So we're talking about the Fremont Bridge, of course, the Ballard Bridge, and then I-5 as well. You can expect a lot of extra company. I'll have updates first thing tomorrow morning at 4:30 right here on KIRO 7.
A reminder to stay with the team that stays on the story. Our morning crew is already getting into position at the bridge, and Alexis and Morgan do traffic and weather every 10 minutes. We've got some breaking news right now. All lanes of the Aurora Bridge have just reopened.
And KIRO 7's Allison Grundy is there live right now. Allison?
Monique, we put our gear away, came back, and they'd opened the bridge. All we can guess is they must have been able to complete their investigation while they were spending so much time working to get those vehicles on those tow trucks. They must have done that simultaneously. I can tell you the Aurora Bridge is open, all 6 lanes right now. There's no emergency vehicles in the area. It's open, and that's what we hope will stay for the morning commute. We're going to check with SDOT and let you know if that changes. Here comes the motorcyclist right now, and buses are running here as well. Back to you.
Well, traffic continues, so does the investigation. Thank you, Allison. Legendary Seattle restaurant Canlis stepped up to feed first responders at today's awful crash on the Aurora Bridge. The restaurant actually closed tonight and made sure crews got a good meal. Workers brought the food to the bridge themselves, handing it out to grateful officers and firefighters. They did what they could.
Right.